Shalom, shalom. Um, Want to give all praises, glory, and honor be to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is your brother from the hopeful elect, brother Isaiah, brother Azrael, and brothers Danal, coming at you with another Wisdom Wednesday. And today's topic, is uh, we're leaving the Israelite community, right? But don't take that the wrong way. What brothers on the screen are saying is, or not necessarily saying, but what brothers on the screen are, I guess you could say, bringing out is when people make this statement, or people make this post, or people, make this video that shows that or tells the story of their Israelite experience and what made them feel a certain type of way and why they left, right? But brothers on the screen are emphatically 100% still in the truth, still proud to be men of the Lord, still proud to call ourselves Israelites who are God's chosen people, right? But there's just a stigma that goes around when people have these bad experiences with certain other Israelite brothers or sisters, and they make this whole big deal about leaving the Israelite community. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that today, right? But the first precept the brother has pulled up, so we can go into the scriptures without further ado. Con. This is the book of Zephaniah.
I got it.
2.
The book of Zephaniah, chapter 2 and verse 1. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather yourselves together, O nation not desired.
Con. So the reason that, I wanted to lead off going here first is just due to the fact that the matter is that, this is what the Lord told us to do through the prophet Zephaniah. Gather together, right? That's why you see a lot of brothers, sisters, camps, congregations, organizations kind of, fellowshipping. That's why you see camps in the manner of which you do. That's why you see that's why you see brothers and sisters that are proud to claim a camp or a body that they fellowship with, a group of friends in the Israelite community. Why? Because one of the things that the Lord commanded us to do through the prophet Zephaniah is gather together, right? That's what we have to do. That's what we should do all the time. Even so much, that was kind of like the precept that resonated in my heart this year. We put it on the calendar, on our calendar for the year of 2024, 2025, man. Zephaniah 2:1, gathering together. That's what we do at the feast days. That's what we do at every holy day. We gather together, whether it just be the brothers that you see on the screen and our wives, whether it just be 2 brothers, whether it just be brothers and a few other friends or one other friend, it doesn't matter. We do our best to try to gather together for the sake of understanding that as a nation of people, this is how the Lord would have us to be, unified, a part of one body. Salat, but brother Azrael, could you pull up the next precept for me? The book of Psalms, chapter 133. Shalom to our brother Shane.
Shalom to that brother Shane, man.
Con. That's the spirit though, because this was our next precept, man. Psalms 133.
Book of Psalms, chapter 133. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore.
Con, man.
So,
like just said, right on time, right on time, man. And I read this because, man, not only do the brothers on the screen and our brother in the chat are familiar with this, but because it's a staple precept, man, in the nation. brotherhood is one of the biggest things that I think gets overlooked oftentimes in life. You know, how good it is to actually have a solid brother to look to the left, to the right. You know, that is a blessing that a lot of brothers don't really have, right? That's a blessing that a lot of sisters, to have a sisterhood that's tight, that a lot of sisters may not have, you know? And the reason that a lot of people get into these situations when they begin to denounce Israelites, or begin to say that, you know, they don't fool with Israelites or associate with Israelites, that's because a lot of times they never had a bond that strong, you know, to kind of hold fast onto. I'm not saying that uh people people's reasons for leaving are foolishness, you know. I don't know the details of why a lot of people may create these videos or may say these things, make these posts, whatever, right? But what I will say is that in life's challenges and life struggles, right, whether you be in the truth or not in the truth, a lot of times what may help keep you grounded is when you have someone solid or two other people that's solid right next to you, you know. And that's why I like to read this, is because it always reminds me of actually how good it is and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity, right? When you have those brothers that you can look to and they have your back, right? When you have brothers like the brothers on the screen, they're good at holding me accountable. You have brothers like that. It's good to be surrounded by people who are like-minded, right? That want the same thing that you. Some brothers want better for you. And it's good to get around those brothers who want you to change your ways. It's good to get around those brothers who want you to be a better version of yourself. It's good to have that sense of brotherhood, right? So let's go to our next precept, right? Let's go to the book of dang, let me go back to my notesies, right? Let me go back to my notes,
Amen.
pull this precept out. Um Salak, can you go back to Zephaniah 2:1? Salak, go back to Zephaniah 2:1. Is the live pausing for anyone else? It hasn't paused on my end. Am I clear to y'all? Danal Azrael?
No, it's clear to me. It's clear for Brother Shane.
Am I? No, I'm not skipping at all.
No, I haven't heard you skip.
Con, con. Well, if you could read this precept one more time,
It might just be your Wi-Fi, Sister Isis.
right?
It's only $5. Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. Gather yourself together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired.
Right. So that's why, you know, the Lord told us to gather together a lot, because a lot of us are separated from brothers and sisters that can help edify us in the spirit, right? Hold us sort of accountable, you know, kind of gravi- gravitate us towards the righteous acts of the Lord, right? Them the type of people and brothers that you got to be surrounded by in the truth and out of the truth. If you're not in the truth and you got friends that know the scriptures, that want to propel you, that want to compel you, or they're doing their best to compel you to follow the Lord, follow those brothers, right? Take a hold of those sisters. The same way, if you're in the truth, right, and you got a body that you fellowship with, you got a couple brothers in that body that you kind of bond with the most. It's always good to stay close with people in the truth that are living righteously in spirit and in truth, right? And like I said, the message is not just dictated to, you know, I guess you could say people living in the truth, what we know to be the truth. The message is dictated to those who may not be in the truth, but you know about it. You're interested in learning about who God's people are, right? And you want to make sure that when you're walking into this thing, or you're trying to, you know, get edified in this thing, you want to make sure that you're surrounded by the right people. That when times get hard, you can look to them and you can say, "Hey, help hold me accountable." Or you can rely on them to always do what the Most High God commanded us to do, right? Because one of the reasons why a lot of people get turned off from following this walk is because they may see people preach one way but live a different lifestyle, like Christianity, right? How we may have a lot of hypocritical pastors in the world. We may have a lot of hypocritical musicians or hypocritical choir directors, whatever the case may be, right? The biggest thing that you got to understand is not only are you coming when you follow the scriptures, right? When you come into the knowledge of who you are, when you devout to keep the commandments, right? When you vow to keep the commandments, you got to remember that the first and foremost important thing you're coming in this thing for is not for another man, it's for yourself, right? It's for yourself. It's not for another man, it's for you. But at the same time, if you see other men who are striving to be perfect as Christ described in Matthew 5:48, take hold to those men, gather together with those men. And that's why, as a nation, the Lord told us to gather together, right? Because at the end of the day, like my brother Eliel said earlier, I kind of got a little, I guess you could say, I got a little, something like one or two precepts from one of his posts he made earlier from our brother from the Anointed House of Saints. The Lord saved us as a nation of people back then. He's going to do the same thing again in the future. It's not going to be me and that brother over there and the brother that lived down the road and the brother that live in a different city. Is going to be all of us together as a nation, gathered together, right? So it's always good to put yourself in the stance of making sure you gravitate towards following the commandments and following people who follow those commandments in spirit and truth, and that helps build a nation, right? Let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 4. Start at verse number 4. Excuse me, Salakia. Ecclesiastes 4 and 9. 4 and 9. I think I'm right. And again, this lesson is titled the way it is, not because I'm speaking to anyone in particular. Well, I am talking to people in particular. Again, I'm talking to those people who may have been what you call in the Israelite community, right? And that's just pretty much, Israelite community is just another way of saying being associated with calling yourself a Israelite, right? So everything has labels in this generation. So my video specifically catered toward those people who had or who had experiences similar to ones that may cause you to leave and make videos and make statuses. But this video is also catered to those who are wanting to learn the truth, those who are trying their best to learn the truth, those people who know the truth. All of this is going to say similar to the same thing. Most High willing, it resonates with your spirit, right? But maybe I was right the first time. Go to Ecclesiastes. Now that's chapter 5. That was chapter 5. I want to say I was. Yeah, Ecclesiastes 4 and 9. 4 and 9. Con. There it is. You could wait, back out of it real quick. Keep it on the yeah, you can keep it wise, because I'm gonna have the brother read to verse number 12.
Ecclesiastes 4 and verse number 9. Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor.
Mm-hmm.
For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he had not another to help him up.
So you stop right there. So instantly, right off the bat, the tone is set. It's never good to be alone, right, in this walk, right? Because how can you, like James 5 and 16 says, confess your faults to your brethren if you have no brethren to confess to, right? If I ain't got nobody to vent to, how am I gonna release this stress, anger, and anxiety? If I'm dealing with a demon, right, a demon of any sorts, that may be a demon, a marijuana demon, that may be a lust demon, right? That may be a thief demon. Anytime you're dealing with a spirit, how can I get rid of this spirit if I don't have any brothers to go to help to ask to pray for me? You know, How can I get rid of these things if I have no one around me to hold me accountable? Because I'm always going to be subject to the same sin because I feel like, well, it's just me by myself, and I can give myself as many excuses because I'm doing this on my own, right? You got to realize that the reason that the Lord was, well, I'm not going to say it like that, but I put it like this. The reason why the Lord loved for us to always be together in unity, right, to be great in number, is because at the end of the day, we're a nation and we move as a nation. And when you have a lot of people on the same type of time, it's powerful, right? It's something that has to be revered. That's why other nations refer to us as gods. And you can see that in the book of First Samuel chapter 4, right? Other nations look to us as gods because of how in order we were, how in the spirit we were, how we moved together in unity, right? That was the Lord's whole plan the entire time. It's always good to have more than one of something, right? That's why people have a checking and a savings account. They're both accounts that you can put money into, but at the same time, look, if my checking account gets kind of low and I saved up some money and hard times come, hey, that's what I saved up for. I pull from the savings. The same way it's good to have brothers around you who can help build you up when you're torn down. The same way it's good to have brothers around you that will go to war for you in case you're not able to fight no more, right? Or you don't have the strength to fight. Or if somebody in the street just so happens to chin check you, you got two other brothers there ready to go for you, right? Same thing with sisters. That's how strong the sisterhood is. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, the message being portrayed here is that that's why it's good to always be around other brothers, right? That's why the Lord said it's pleasing unto him when brethren dwell together in unity. That's why the Lord says, in three things I was beautified and stood up both beautiful before God and men. And the first thing that was mentioned in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 25, was the unity of brethren, right? Now, Salaki, real quick. But nonetheless, all of these precepts, right? All of these accounts, the things that are being said, it point to understanding that a house is built on a solid foundation, right? And when you have no foundation, you're not able to stand. Now, our foundation should be Christ, right? But even Christ had followers around him, right? Now, we know Judas was at the end of the day a snake in grass or a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? But nonetheless, he had 11 other guys that went to bat for him, right? He even told Peter that he was going to deny him, but nonetheless, Peter was there. You know, at the end of the day, we all need brothers, we all need bodies, we all need someone to help lift us up when we're torn down. And that's just my message to those people who say that they're leaving the Israelite community, right? Or those people that feel like, well, they don't want to come into the truth because X, Y, and Z, right? The best thing that you could always do is have people that want to see better for you. And when you come into this walk, that's the main thing that I always say, that one thing that you can't never take for granted is a good friend, right? What's that precept? I didn't write it down earlier, but it just came to my head.
Quote it again.
It says a faithful friend, something like that. I'm gonna pull it up. Hold on. Faithful friend. Um, Sirach, yeah, Sirach 6:14. Sirach 6:14. If you can pull that up real quick. 6:14. And then we gonna read on.
Sirach verses 6, verse 14. A faithful friend is a strong defense. and he that has found such a one has found a treasure.
Right. If you found a faithful friend, right? Hey, a lot of things that may try to come against you, man, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for them things to prosper, man. Because at the end of the day, you have a friend that is going bar for bar with you, right? That's going to war for you when you can't fight. That's why a faithful friend is a strong defense. Because a lot of these spiritual attacks that happen and cause our people to fall out the truth or cause our people to do X, Y, and Z, whatever, right? A lot of times these happen because we don't have friends around us that are faithful. And hear me out. You may have a ride or die best friend, right? But if they're not living according to the commandments of the Lord, then they're not truly ride or die for you. Why? And they're ignorant of it, but they're actually taking you away from the Lord more and more each and every day through their actions. You may feel like they got your back. You may feel like they tell you right, but at the end of the day, if they're not trying to lead you to the Most High God, then they're not really necessarily that much of a faithful friend, right? They're doing it in ignorance. Again, this is in ignorance, right? But at the same time, you have to always give an account to understanding. Was the Lord talking about a friend who encourages you to rob people, encourages you to steal from people, right? But at the end of the day, when it comes to account of you, they'll kill anybody behind you. But at the same time, they're telling you it's okay to kill somebody else to get these riches. That's not a real faithful friend. That's a friend who has no regard for your life. Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to put brothers on the screen at risk for anything that can get them murdered, right? I wouldn't tell Brother Denal, hey, go rob that bank, you know. But look, Brother Denal, I'll go to war behind you 10 times out of 10, right? That's not wise. That's not being faithful, right? Because that could jeopardize his life. He could go to jail. He could die. That's against the commandments of the Lord when it says, thou shalt not steal. There's so many things to give an account to when it talks about a true faithful friend. And a true faithful friend is one that's going to lead you to the commandments of the Lord, right? Let's go to dang, you back that us all right, 6? Con, if you could go to verse 15 in that. If you could read this, Brother Denal.
Sirach chapter 6 and verse 15. Nothing doth countervail a faithful friend, and his excellency is invaluable.
Hey, man, it's priceless. It's priceless. You know what I'm saying? You can't put a price tag on a real N word. You know what I'm saying? You can't put a price tag on a solid brother, right? Because at the end of the day, this is something that money can't buy. This is a love that money can't buy. Now, again, I'm saying all this to those who say they live in the community. I'm saying this to those who may be thinking about, like, why should I, be an Israelite? Again, being an Israelite is not a religion. I mean, it's a religion by technicality, right? But being an Israelite is more of an ethnic bloodline, right? And the reason I say religion is because we have a set of laws, we have a culture that we follow, right? But all that is through ethnic bloodline, right? All of that is through genetics. All of that is through history, right? About how the Lord set his people up. But let's not get it twisted. Being an Israelite is not a wave. It's not something that you can just gravitate to for 1 minute when it's popular, and then the next minute you back doing whatever you was doing before you came into the truth. We've seen people come into the truth and fall out in a season because they gravitated toward walking in the commandments of the Lord for a season. Maybe a famous celebrity mentioned it, and you love that celebrity so much that you wanted to follow it to be like them, and then you kind of see them not living in it, so you kind of back out of it too, right? Maybe you had a friend that was said something about the Israelites, and you kind of got more interested in, but when that friend was like, I ain't really following that because I don't believe that that's then you start backing out of it too, right? I'm speaking to the people who have these issues. I'm speaking to the people who are in college dealing with peer pressure, right? You surrounded by a lot of people that don't really understand who they truly are. You're surrounded by a lot of people that don't understand what their true purpose in life is, like it mentions in Ecclesiastes 12 and 13, right? I'm speaking to those people. Understand this thing is not a wave, right? So a lot of times people come in and they come right out because they're just following it for a trend or they're following a man, right? But we are not to be servants of men, right? If you can pull up a precept for me, can you pull up the book of Acts chapter 5 and verse 29? Acts 5 and 29. Con, if you can read this, brother, no, you can click on that one, make it big, right?
Khan, the book of Acts, chapter 5 and verse 29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men.
We ought to obey the Most High God rather than men, right? Now, the reason I say that is because of this account right here. Can you pull up the book of Matthew chapter 23, right? And we'll start at verse 1. You can leave that one big, right? You can leave that one wide. Matthew 23. We ought to obey God rather than men. Now, I say that to sup with the point that just was made, right? If you come into this thing and you're trying to be a servant of men, you're going to fall out when you realize man makes the same mistakes that men have been making since man sinned in the beginning, right? A lot of people come into this community and feel like, well, can't nobody do no wrong. And you glorify these men, you idolize these men. Then these men start going off, and now all of a sudden you find yourself in shambles because I never thought that so-and-so would do such thing. Why? Because you put your trust in men. We ought to obey the Most High God. That's why, again, going back to what a brother said earlier, man, know this, and I'm not saying notice as in notice, but know this. When you come into this walk, you are supposed to be walking for the Most High God for you. You're not doing this for no man. You're doing this to please the Most High God because it was commanded of us to do such, right? And if you come into this thing, you shouldn't want to do it alone. You should want people around you. Why? Because just like we read in Ecclesiastes 4, two are better than one. It's going to be hard for somebody to stay girded. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's a lot harder to be disciplined and stay girded in this thing when you're by yourself as opposed to when you have 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 50, 60, 100 brothers more on your side to counter you. I mean, not to counter you, but to back you, right? But this is why I say you should come into this walk and not be followers of men, right? Let's start at read Matthew chapter 23 and start at verse number 1.
Matthew chapter 23, verse 1. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not do not ye after their works, for they say and do not.
Read verse 4.
For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers.
Verse number 5 as well.
But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments.
So again, this is dealing with hypocrites, man. The Lord, the scriptures tell us, be not a hypocrite, right? But if you know somebody who's a hypocrite, they're teaching the word of the Most High, but they're not living it. You should do as they say, but not as they do, right? And that's for the people who get turned off from the truth by people who preach the word but don't do it. Oh, you just a fake, you just a phony. Well, you got to remember that you're going to be judged for your actions, not the actions of another man. So if another man's actions cause you to kind of fall out the truth, then yes, that is solely on yourself. Why? Because again, you have to realize that Philippians 2 and 12 tells us that we should work out our own salvation with fear and trembling, right? You can't work out your own salvation if you're looking at another man's ways and thinking that, well, I don't got to do it because he's not doing it. That's not you working out your own salvation, right? That's you thinking that your salvation comes by the actions of another man. If it wasn't so, then why are you allowing another man to turn you off from serving the Lord in spirit and in truth, right? We get too much of that nowadays too, where you see teachers, leaders, elders, bishops, whatever you call it, right? And they have their sins, they have their vices, and then it gets made known to the general public. And then you see a lot of people coming in waves speaking against Israelite men, Israelite women, Israelite families, Israelite culture, Israelite customs. They want to call it cultish. They want to call it this. They want to call it that. Why? Because a lot of people who fall out this thing, they were serving men when they were in it. They were either serving men or B, they didn't have no one to lean on when times got tough. And misery loves company, man. That's why a lot of times when it comes to, serving the Lord and trying to walk this walk, that's why when Christ said, be ye therefore perfect, we have to strive to live examples of perfection each and every day of our lives, to be complete. It doesn't mean to never have sin in your life. To be perfect means to be complete, right? There's a law for a reason. I seen the brother Hassad say this. I think that was him that said this on one of his lives. Someone was challenging him on be ye therefore perfect, right? To be perfect doesn't mean that you never sin or never will sin again. That just means to be perfect and complete. What does that say? That says that if I steal from somebody, then according to the law, I got to pay a certain percentage of what I stole back. So the way I'm perfect is if I stole it, I got to give, according to the law, that measure of what I took back. And that makes me perfect. That makes me complete. Because even though I broke the law, I kept the law, right? Now, don't take that as a soundbite and say, oh, it's okay to break the law as long as you keep the law. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's an understanding that goes when you read certain scriptures. And the understanding of Christ telling us to be perfect is to ensure that we're following the laws of God. Why? Because the laws of God were written for our good. The laws of God is what the Most High gave us for inheritance, right? The laws of God were given to us that we should serve him in spirit and in truth. And that's what we people have to get back to understanding, is that you come to serve the laws of God for the Most High God, not for your bishop or your elder or your deacon or your pastor or the brother on the left or the sister on the right. You got to know that you come into this walk for yourself. Now, kind of switching points here, just going to read a few scriptures on why it's kind of good, or not kind of good, but why do people boast themselves in camps sometimes, right? Why do people boast about that? Why do people kind of, um, feel like if you're not in the camp, you're going to be damned to the lake of fire? Well, let's start here. Number one, I myself and brothers on the screen won't teach that if you're not in the camp, you're going to go to the lake of fire. You're going to die, or this, that, and the third, right? No, I don't think. Now, if there are Israelites that say that, forgive them for they not know what they do it. But at the end of the day, there's a certain trend that we're getting at, right? But we'll start here. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 23, and let's start at verse number 11.
That's another thing too, though, man. I think what really takes place and what really happens is that folks don't know how to articulate um, how they're feeling and what they are doing, so to speak. Right? I think a lot of people choose the wrong words and phrases, and sometimes it can get misconstrued, and people can look over what you're trying to say. You know what I'm saying? On both sides of the spectrum, that is. You know what I'm saying? I think at the end of the day, man, you know, it's a video for. I think it could be a video for another time. But I think what people really are trying to say, they're not saying, they or they don't know how to say it, right? But like the brother just said, at the end of the day, man, if you keeping these law, statutes, and commandments, you believing that you're an Israelite, you know what I'm saying? Um, we're not saying that you're not gonna make it. We're not saying that that you have to be a part of a camp, a new age camp today to make it, right? Because we're all supposed to be in the camp of the Lord, camp of Israel, right? And so, but that's just a sidebar. Um, Deuteronomy 23:11. But it shall be on when evening cometh on, Salakia, he shall wash himself with water, and when the sun is down, he shall come into the camp again.
Salakia, brother Azrael, can you make this? Can you read chapter, read an entire chapter? So yeah, we don't have to jump from verse. But Khan, to the point you was making just a minute ago, Salaki, if y'all heard that radio played in the background, I connected my phone to the car and it just does that. But to the point you was making, Khan, we're not saying that if you don't join the camp, you don't join the body, you'll be destroyed, But I'm trending towards what one of our brothers was saying earlier, man. You just make it a lot easier on yourself when you're surrounded by like-minded people, right? You make your walk that much more easier when you're with people who advocate for the Father just as much as you would like for them to do, right? It's going to be a hard thing to kind of live a set-apart lifestyle when you're by yourself and then you're surrounded by a bunch of wickedness each and every day, right? You make it that much harder for yourself. So all I'm saying is I'm trending towards, like the brother was saying earlier, on Facebook, man, there's a reason that the Lord had us in camps. And I'm not talking about camps with titles. I'm just talking about an encampment of people, right? I'm not talking about, oh, you had the Sakari, and then you had the Sons of Thunder, and you had the Anointed House Saints, you had the Hopeful Elect, you had Watchful for Israel. I'm not saying it like camps like that back in the day, but I'm talking about there was always a large gathering of people, right? And the Lord was within us, right? Let's read this. We just read verse 11. Jump down to verse 14, right?
And if I may add too, man, that says something also about how some brothers and sisters act within our community, man. That should, I don't think we should be on defense about people stepping away. I think we should take it into consideration, right? Because just like the precept he brought out before, it says that the Pharisees, man, they put burdens on the people. What was those burdens? It was doctrines of men, things that were sometimes added unto the law, right? Customs that were being upholded that were making it harder to be in the community, right? Things that we necessarily didn't have to do, right? And if we didn't do them, it wasn't a sin, but people were holding them as such. And so that's why other people were stepping away and joining the ways of the Gentiles, because it was an easier way of living. And so when you look at it, the same thing that was happening then is the same thing that's happening now, right? People are starting to build customs that aren't necessarily laws or anything like that. And if you go against the societal norm in the community, then you're looked at as, defiant. And people are starting to see the burdens that come with that, and they want to step away. So sometimes, man, we got to examine ourselves, what we're doing, what we're saying, how we're acting, right? And kind of act accordingly. And what does that mean? That means we got to take that stuff into consideration, take a step back, and examine ourselves, whether we be in the faith or not, and move forward in a different way. It's change and growth. There's nothing wrong with that, right? We don't always have to stay stuck in the ways that we were doing. We can grow, and we can hear people out, right? Because at the end of the day, these are our brothers and sisters that have these concerns. And if it's more than one person that has this concern, maybe it's something that we should be looking into as well. And so it's a two-part thing, not only for on them, that the people that are disassociating, but the same people that are still in complaining about the people making these posts and stuff like that. Both sides need to come together so we can find a common ground, man, right? And so that middle wall of partition stays intact. But
Right. Because at the end of the day, we, like the brothers Danal said earlier, man, we should all be on the same type of time, right? We should all be one camp, and that's the camp of the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? It shouldn't be no division about the little things, right? But we know, just like the point he just made, how pharisaical habits have brought forth doctrines that are not of the Most High. So it's caused people to divide naturally, right? As it did in times past, right? Commandments of men that people follow that cause people to go one way and certain people to go the other way. We have to do away with a lot of that. We have to start doing something like First John tells us to do. Believe not every spirit, but try these spirits to see if they're of the Lord. Because one thing that's not of the Lord is adding to the law. Why is that not of the Lord? Because it's a commandment that the Lord told us not to do in Deuteronomy chapter 4, right? So if you around somebody who's adding to the law, you can go to the laws of God and blatantly see that this stuff isn't in there, but it's philosophized. That's not of the Most High. The Most High wouldn't have you following doctrines of men. The Most High wouldn't be having you follow philosophy and vain deceit, right? You have to try these spirits. You have to prove all things. You have to say to these people that, hey, at the end of the day, hey, this is not expedient or meat for me. Why? Because this is not what I find when I read the scriptures. There are a lot of things that, like the brother said, both parties have to do to get on this same page. But let's read. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, Con, some examples that we're talking about, man, is some that we've mentioned before, right? When you talk about setting burdens on people, right? People coming to the truth. When you come to the truth, you don't really know, like, how to put fringes on and stuff like that. So you got people that make makeshift fringes. And we got brothers and sisters going around making fun of people that got the cut up shirt, saying you got baby fringes on, or you got the ghetto fringes on, or why your fringes ain't this color, or this, why your zits so small, or where's the that's not the right color blue and stuff like that. These are doctrines of men. There's a brother or sister wearing fringes that's better than a brother or sister that's not even trying, right? So we got to give grace in those situations. Another situation, right? And I know a lot of brothers and sisters, they don't exactly agree with this, but telling people they can't wear pants, man, it's not a sin, man. So we can't be treating it like one. We can't be saying because a sister has on pants, she's not gonna make it and she's in sin, right? She got to repent. If it's not in the scripture, man, we can't be saying these things. Again, these are doctrines of men that people are upholding, putting burdens on people, right? Making ourselves, making it harder for us to even come in to be comfortable in the truth, right? Just little things like that. But just two examples, man.
Man. Hey, the brother trying to debate. Let's do it. But we can go to Deuteronomy 23:14. Let's read this real quick.
Con. Verse 14, for the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of the camp to deliver thee and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he see no unclean thing in thee and turn away from thee.
So, again, you'll see this a lot in the book of Deuteronomy, where it talks about putting evil away from among you, or put therefore the unclean thing away from you, because at the end of the day, right, the reason that the Lord had us do certain meticulous things like carrying a shovel with us when we went to the restroom to cover up the poop is because he was in the midst of us, right? And if you know the Most High God is in the midst of you, you shouldn't want anything unclean around him, right? You should want to remove far from you the unclean things, that be spiritually and physically, right? That's why we have to do away with this spiritual uncleanness as well, right? We have to stop giving into these idolatrous lifestyle, like we talked about last week, idolizing the wrong things, idolatry. Because at the end of the day, the Lord is in the midst of us, and especially when we were at camp, right? When we were going out to war and the Lord had us as an army, he was with us. We had the Ark of the Covenant. He was with us, right? It was a multitude of us, right? It wasn't just one person. But that's not to say, again, this is not to be read for me to say that if you're somebody who's not in the camp or not in a body, not in a congregation, not fellowshipping with other Israelites, you're not going to make it. That's not me to say that. That's just me to say, like the brother said earlier, man, there's a reason why the Lord had us strong when we were in numbers, right? Now, that's not to say that our strength is found in numbers. Our strength comes from the Most High. David slayed Goliath as a sole man, right? So the Lord gave David that strength to do that, right? But as a nation of people, the way that we truly receive our salvation will be as a nation of people, right? Let's go to the book of Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 8 real quick. Hebrews 8 and 8. I was going to pull out another account, but that'll be later. You know, maybe you do another lesson onto that. Colin, if you can read this, brother Denal.
The book of Hebrews chapter 8 and verse number 8. For finding fault with them, he said, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Right. Keep reading.
For
Salakia.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in that day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continue not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord.
So, to make the point, right, we don't have to read all the verses pertaining to the new covenant, right? But to make the point, right, in verse 8, it said, with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, right? It didn't say with just one portion or one sect of Israelites, right? It didn't say with individualites. It didn't say with, like the brother said earlier, aloneites, right? But also at the same time, like Brother Denal advocates for, let's not get so high-minded, right, that if you're not in the camp, you're not going to get saved, right? If you're not in the camp, you're going to be destroyed. That's not the doctrine either, right? This is just me showing how, like the brother said earlier, how when we were together as a people, the Lord was pleased when we were doing righteously, right? When we were righteously together, the Lord was pleased with that, right? It was, again, Psalms 133, behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. When we're a nation of believers believing and we're all on one accord, man, hey, that's just like Acts 2 and 5, right? When they was at the Pentecost and they was on one accord, man, and that Holy Spirit hit these men. They were gathering together when that happened, right? Let's go to one last precept, right? Let's go to the book of Revelation 20, and let's go to verse 9. Again, these are all precepts that I seen today on a post. Not every precept that we read, but specifically Deuteronomy 23 and specifically Revelation 20, because those are two precepts that I didn't necessarily, not saying that I didn't read it as such, but the way it was explained, it resonated with my spirit. It made sense to me. I was like, that's a good point. So I wanted to add those points in the lesson, right? Wisdom is going forth, right? But let's read this, Revelation 29 and 10.
Revelation 29 and 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake.
That's
of the
verse
fire.
10.
Huh?
That's verse number 10. You can start at verse number 9.
Oh, I thought you said 10. And they went up on the breadth of the earth. Verse number 9. And they went up on the breadth of the earth and encompassed the camp of the saints about the beloved city. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them.
So it says, encompass the camp of the saints about, right? This is after the 1,000-year reign, right? This is a prophecy that's going to happen. And they went up on the breadth of the earth and encompassed the camp of the saints about in the beloved city. And the fire came down from the Most High out of heaven and devoured them, right? Who was the them that it was devouring? The deceiver, right? Go ahead and read verse number 10.
Number 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the breasts of the false prophets are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever.
So, again, the point here is not to go into the prophecy of what it's saying, but to emphasize how it said encompass the camp of the saints about. right? Going to show that even in the 1,000-year reign of Christ, after the 1,000-year reign of Christ, the saints of God will still be in what we know as a camp. Not what you see now, similar to what you see modern day. I'm not going to say not like what you see modern day, similar to what you see modern day with a lot of Israelites, but more so in unity in that time, right? Because at the end of the day, like the brother Denal said earlier, we should all be one camp of the Most High God. But again, this point is to show how the Lord was dealing with us when we were in numbers. The same thing he did for us when he brought us out of Egypt. We were large in number when he brought us out of Egypt. We multiplied greatly, right? He dealt with Salakia. He dealt with us on a large scale level a lot of different times, right? There's a few precepts we didn't read. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read them, but I want the point to still stand, right? This lesson wasn't necessarily a prophetic breakdown. It wasn't necessarily, you know what I'm saying, a class. This was more so of, scriptures to kind of, give you to think about when it comes to being somebody who's alone in this walk, being somebody who's not sure about this walk, being somebody who was in the faith but kind of fell away for whatever reason that you did, giving you some scriptures to kind of consider when it comes to why you should come back in, why maybe you left, or why is it that the Lord deals with, camps, or why do you have camps in a sense, right? Hopefully those questions were kind of answered to an extent. And if not, like I said, there's always opportunities for connection with us, DM, social media, all of that. But there's also an opportunity for us to get back on and do more lives, go further into things, right? But we've been on here for 50 minutes. So with that, man, I'm going to just hold my peace. The brothers got anything else to add?
Not really, man. That was a good lesson. I would say just like as a brother said, man, reach out to us, man. If you are looking to fellowship with anybody, keep a feast days, just be around like-minded people, man. If anybody knows us, they know that we're some of the most down to earth Israelites out there. We don't force nothing down anybody's throat. We make sure if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna wear fringes, it's because you feel compelled to, right? We'll shed light on the knowledge and wisdom that we have. But it's really big for us that you're not doing it for man, but you're doing it for yourself and the Most High, right? And so we hope that the way we live our lives rubs off on the people that are around us. But we do it in not a weird manner, right? So if you ever feel like you need somebody to reach out to, fellowship with, keep the feast days, don't be a stranger. And it's always good vibes with us. Hopefully, right? I hope everybody feels the same way that has hung out with us. But Con.
And if we gave you any reason not to feel the same way, hey, have mercy on us, man. Because like we say, we know in part, for we prophesy in part. And that which is full is come, that which is in part shall be done away with. Roughly paraphrasing to say, there's maybe a lot of things that we didn't know, back then. There's maybe some things we did incorrectly. But at the end of the day, we're trying. And if you're an Israelite that's watching this, or you once associated with the Israelite community and you're watching this, sometimes remember that we got to have grace and mercy on our brothers and sisters who may do things to offend us. Not to say that you should just be forgiving, especially if people are, if certain situations don't permit according to the law to be forgiven for, but not every sin is a sin unto death. So just keep that in mind. If someone offended you in a way and it's not a sin unto death, if you can have it in mercy in your heart to forgive them, do that, right? Give God's people more of a chance than you give the people of the world, because the people of the world will accept you with open arms to do wickedly against people who want you to set yourself apart to serve the Most High God, right? So with that, I'll say Shalom. All praise to the Most High. Lord willing, you was edified. We'll be on here maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday, maybe on the Sabbath. Who knows? It's of the Lord. But Shalom.
Shalom.
Oh, wait. Azrael said he had something to say.
Yeah, man. I was gonna say something, bro.
My bad, bro. You was quiet the whole time, man. Hey.
But yeah, I was gonna say, man, it's hard to step away from your brothers and sisters once you figure out your nativity and that you're a part of this great nation. You can't run away from blood. Um, you know what I'm saying? You can't. And then if you also believe in the Bible and you apply the Bible to your life, you can't run away from living out the Bible. And whether you agree with brothers or not, different doctrines, you know what I'm saying? We're all brothers and sisters in this thing, and we'll always be somewhat like-minded. Uh, and I just want to say, leaving a doctrine is not leaving the truth. Leaving a doctrine is not leaving the truth. The truth is in the Bible, man. The Bible, these words of God, is the truth. I want to leave everybody with a picture and some information, right? When you look at a tree, right, a lot of people don't notice the leaves, right? There's a lot of leaves on trees, but the only thing people notice on a tree is the fruit or the fruit. That fruit may be nuts, acorns, it may be bananas, it may be apples, it may be peaches, but that's what people notice on the tree is the fruit. But there's so many leaves. Without the leaves, there would be no fruit, right? Quick little lesson. The leaves store the food and the sugar and is translocated through the branches and through the roots and the stems to the fruit. I'm saying all this to say, man, a lot of us are leaves. It's a lot of leaves out there. It's a lot of doctrines. It's a lot of camps. It's a lot of teachers. It's a lot of brothers and sisters out there that are the leaves. We're doing this to produce fruit, though. If you don't have the right things in your leaf, the fruit is not going to show. So when you have people saying they want to leave, when you have people coming in doing great things, right? These are all examples of fruit, and we got to examine the fruit to examine ourselves and see if we're doing the right job, our job, right? So with that being said, we all work together. We're one big tree, right? We're one big tree. Sometimes you get some fruit to fall off the tree. Sometimes you get some fruit to get picked from the tree, right? If you got eyes to see, you can see what I'm trying to say. Some people are chosen to be mighty. Some people get sifted out, fall by the wayside, and end up on the ground, right? But at the end of the day, right, we are one big tree, one big camp, and we all got to be able to love one another, right? Because only a few's gonna make it. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't matter on judgment day, only a few gonna make it. It don't matter what your title is, it don't matter what you belong to, who you belong to, right? There's gonna be plenty of people that said, Lord, I did many works in your name. I did many works in this organization name, many works under this bishop or elder or pastor's name. But guess what? We're gonna be looking at you, that leaf, and what did you produce for those fruit? I hope that wasn't confusing, man, but I yield. Shalom. Good lesson.
Shalom.
Shalom.